Hi everyone, my name is Cass.
And I'm Wilson.
In the world of startups, people don't talk about hiring and scaling teams enough. And really, it's the most important and most expensive cost to a business.
And today we're going to be answering some questions in our experience in building teams and even our most costly mistakes, spending over $1 million building the wrong team. So let's dive right in.
Let's start with a quick summary of your past work experience.
Cool.
You go first.
All right. Well, I started a carnival business for the last 12 years. Currently, we have scaled to more than 100 staff. And along the same time, we've also built a dessert franchise with 7 locations. And now we're building a startup with Cass, a tech startup.
Hey! For me, it's a very different experience. I have a mixture of corporate and consulting work for the last 12 plus years. And through that, I've had experience recruiting, scaling teams, entries into new global markets. And that's kind of where I get my realm of expertise in.
How has your past work influenced your perspective on hiring?
So, because we were running a carnival and I have no experience in doing so, it was a very scrappy type of environment that we had when it comes down to hiring. It's like, if you can do the job and if you're willing to take on the shifts, I'll hire you, because quite frankly, I didn't really know what I was doing. And so that was the type of hiring experiences that I've had, because I've never really worked in a corporate environment. So I don't know what to do better. And I just hear her like chirping in my ear all the time. It's like, oh, you know what? You should do this. You should do that. And I'm like, you don't understand the startup world, Cassandra.
You don't know what it's like.
And that's kind of like how my experience has been when it comes down to hiring.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. Very different from Wilson's experience. When I worked at companies like Lululemon, that isn't gonna fly. We can't just hire anybody because my heartstrings are pulled.
But I love you!
So instead, this experience working with small startups to large global companies allowed me to really get a really good understanding, working with different leaders to see what role is needed and at what time for us to really build the business and have it flourish.
What would you say is the biggest mistake people make when hiring?
Hiring based on feelings and not the really function that they serve. Like, you know, you can have your buddies that you can work with, but at the same time, if they're kind of useless, kind of sucks. And then that's really the biggest mistake. And you don't want to hire, you know, your partner just because, you know, they're your partner, but you want to hire them because they're good.
So
right?
some has worked successfully for you too. So,
Yes.
But having said that, mine is really not. No, I think what I've seen in founders is that they never know when to hire, which is very important, because when it comes to when, it means that you're saving money on your labor dollars. You can extend your runway a little bit, and you're not spending the time managing people. Managing people is not fun for some people.
I agree. Actually, you know what? One more to add to the list is that don't just give out equity and shares just because, you know, you really want them.
What?
Yeah, I'm learning.
This guy gives equity like no tomorrow. It's like, oh, you have this business, you have this business, you have this business. Here's my business.
My point is saying that, especially as a new kind of entrepreneur, when you find someone that is talented and someone that you feel like they bring so much value to your business, you just have this attachment and this like FOMO of like, oh, I really don't want to let you go. And so you just want to like tangle yourself with them as much as possible. And therefore, for me, back then, I would just be like, yo, let's be partners. Let's like take this ownership, take this profit sharing, because I really want to be able to work with you. And I think the reason of that is because I didn't know what I was doing. And I think that is really the premise of why I did that. And as a lot of entrepreneurs that I know, more newer ones, they tend to have that type of same feeling as well.
What has been your biggest mistake when it comes to hiring?
I think one of the biggest mistake, most impactful one, is within the carnival business. And basically what happened is one of the GMs that was in charge of my carnival operation was in charge of roughly like 60 to 70 different staff at that time. And he decided that a week before we were opening for our season to stage a takeover. a literal takeover where he poached all our staff to give them an ultimatum of, do you want to leave with me to another shop, or do you want to stay with Wilson? And this was a week before we were opening.
I remember you coming home and you were so stressed about that. And I remember, I think it was an everyday thing that you were dealing with.
It was quite scarring, actually, because I'm like, what? Like, I treat my staff like they're my little brothers kind of deal. I was relatively young when that happened. And so the people that we were working with are also very young. And so there's a really big sense of camaraderie. And so when that happened, it not only impacted my business because it had to delay our setup, delay our operations, but at the same time,
and resourcing, like taking away 50% of your team a week before, that's huge.
That was sad. That was sad. Yeah.
So tip here is have a good contract. I think that was when you started listening. Remember, I was like, do you have a contract for these people?
Yeah.
And I'm like, nope. And then what happened next year? Everybody's got contracts.
Yep. NDA, like the whole jam, and then making sure that the contracts are in.
That was a good lesson.
That was sad.
I think initially is probably that experience building out our game. And I think that was kind of when I was like just coming in, inserting myself, and we were also in the midst of building something really big.
And in the beginning of our working relationship, building up a Web3 gaming product, we had no business in that, by the way. And so me coming in thinking that building a game is easy, I went ahead and just hired a bunch of people because I'm like, yo, you need a job, we have a job, let's do this. And we ended up hiring a lot of people that was not really needed at that moment.
So what I saw as an observer was
you were
that
in it too, by the way.
I was a accomplice. I wasn't part of this decision, but what I noticed was that when we were hiring when there was a fire. And so it really didn't give enough time for people to, I don't think we just had enough foresight in planning out when to hire. And were they the right talent? Were they doing the right work at the right time? And while in the midst of kind of navigating that, there was a really tight timeline on getting a game up and launched for our 100,000 community.
So what was the biggest lesson you learned from that mistake?
The biggest lesson that I've learned is to spend the time in the pre-production, to gather all your facts, to understand the scope of your project, then that allows you to know when to hire, know who to hire, and for what function. And it's something that is so important because, like, for me, I'm just like go all the time, and I have a vision. I'm like, yo, let's run, let's get it, let's do this.
Oh, let's go.
But the time you spend picking up and cleaning up your mess is definitely gonna outweigh the time that you spend in the pre-production side of things.
And when you say, like, instead of go, to give a clearer example, it could be you end up hiring whoever is available and they may not have the right skill set to help, or there's not enough work for them because you're not thinking about when you needed the hire. So they're just kind of sitting around and you're kind of needing to spend time trying to figure out what work can we give them because I'm paying you and I don't want to not be paying for anything.
Yeah.
So those are just some examples of what you mean by when you're not thoughtfully planning out your hires.
And shout out to Cass, because that's what she's taught me and has illustrated in how we're building our business right now. So kudos.
Thanks.
Hypothetically, if a super talented and potentially valuable person wants to join your company, do you hire them immediately to lock them in or wait until you need them?
Of course you hire them right away.
You did not learn anything.
Oops.
Oh my gosh.
Or better yet, the answer is ask Cass.
So I would say my counter question would be, what does super talented mean?
What do you cannot have a counter question to your host.
Well, anyways, when I say super, okay, so if it's a super talented in a way that is like a specialized skill set, say it is a engineer, no, because I don't know what you need to engineer when I don't even, the work isn't there. But if it is someone who is really driven, wants to just learn and has this hunger for that, sure, I'm happy to have you, because there's someone who has the drive to want to help bits and pieces, and that might be, and they're probably not going to cost very much.
That sounds a lot like Wilson's strategy.
Yeah.
You know what, Josh? It's a full circle moment right here. I love it. And that's why we work well together. It's because we learn from each other, right?
Anyways, yes.
How do you approach hiring for your tech startup?
I've given up. I've cast.
So actually, no. I would say one thing that you do well that I don't even think you're doing is when it comes to BD. Whenever you do come across people, you kind of stay connected and you network with them, and eventually sometimes those connections become people who can actually you bring on board to help us with the team.
You know what? I am really good at that. I didn't realize that. You're right. I never realized that.
And that's what, you know, sometimes recruiters do. They just go and network to stay connected. So I kind of call that BD. But secondly, I would say scouting your talent where they live. So for example, for us within the Web3 crypto space, I've hired candidates that are through Discord servers. I've hired candidates through Telegram groups because that's where they live. And there are networks hidden in these little nicks, what is it, crevices, cracks and crevices where these guys are. And so whenever you're thinking about where can I find it, you got to think about where's that talent living.
That is such a key insight that not a lot of people understand, because like immediately when you're thinking about hiring someone for Web3, very niche type of industry that is growing, you'd be like, oh, let's go on LinkedIn. And the majority of the people that are on LinkedIn seeking for jobs for Web3, they're not qualified. Like truly, they're not qualified, because the people that actually understand Web3, they're not on LinkedIn. They are actually in these Discords. They're actually in the Telegram groups. And to Cass's point, this is like such a unique insight that not a lot of people have.
Knowing what you know now, what advice would you give your younger self?
Oh, I like to hear Wilson on this one. Because you know why? I've had 12 plus years. No.
You have more than that.
More than that, trying to like whisper in his ears going, don't do that.
You know what?
Don't hire that. You shouldn't do that. And then we're here now.
You know what? It's such a disservice to bundle up hiring and the skill set of hiring into just this word, because I think it's much more than that. It's understanding your business, understanding your goals, understanding the people that you need to help you drive your business towards the goal. And I think that is really the key function. And because the word hiring is such an easy kind of word to throw around, it gets so underappreciated. And to my point on that is, knowing what I know now, it's really important to hire, to get the right people that can actually do the job for you, to actually do the hiring for you. For example, just hire Cass. Like truly, I think there's no way that I would know, nor would I want to invest in that skill set to do proper hiring and proper organizational structure. I think that having someone specialized would save you so much more money. So then that way, I can actually have bandwidth to focus on what I do best.
You know what? I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
10 plus years later, we get to this day and it's recorded. It's worked.
Awesome. Thank you guys.
Thanks.
All right, awesome.